One, two, three, four. I got thoughts running through my head. I got thoughts, can't you see? I got thoughts, the books I read. I got thoughts, won't you listen to me?
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of The Author Has Thoughts. I am the author in question, Gary Ballard, author of 12 books, including 6 novellas in the Stepping Stone Cycle series, which is a modern-day reimagining of the Cthulhu Mythos by H.P. Lovecraft, and a 5-part series including a companion short story collection of cyberpunk stories called the Bridge Chronicles. You can check out the books on my links down in the description below. I always get that wrong. And if you like this video, subscribe, of course, somewhere in there. And let's get to talking. So today we're going to talk about the 4th book in my Cthulhu Mythos series. And the book's called Memory Void. And it is part of the Stepping Stone Cycle series, which if you've not been keeping up with the videos, then you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but there's videos to explain that, and there's probably going to be links down here, or you can look at the channel in some of the first videos, and you can see what I'm talking about. So Memory Void was written, I believe in 2017. 2017 was when it was published. I believe somewhere in that year I was writing it. I had written the first 3, one after the other, and had taken a break from doing my Bridge Chronicles series, which has sold better and has been more popular. And in the middle of, writing the Stepping Stone Cycle, I thought, well, let me keep the home fires burning for the Bridge Chronicles and, make sure people don't forget about it. So I was going to write a short story compilation in between, after I finished Drowned, which was the 3rd episode in Stepping Stone. And so I ended up starting to write short stories, and that actually became a full novel on its own called Reclamation, the 5th Bridge Chronicles book. So I wrote Reclamation, and then I was like, okay, I'm coming back. I'm not going to write anything else until I finish the Stepping Stone Cycle, because I had always had in my mind 6 episodes or 6 novellas. Again, it's being written as with the thought of each novella being a episode or 2 in a television series. I was like, okay, we're going to finish the first season. I'm going to go ahead and write all the way through it, and once I'm done with it, then I can go on to other things, back to Bridge Chronicles or whatever other stories I want to write. And I've always pictured 6 novellas in the series. Just a round number. Don't really know why. And I had plenty of ideas for the first 3. The first 3 came real simply. And I knew what the 5th one was going to be, and I knew, of course, what the finale was. I knew the ending. I knew mostly how it was going to go and what it was about. The 4th book, which became Memory Void, I didn't. I had vague ideas. I had vague imagery in my head, but I didn't have a good grasp on what I wanted to write for this one. And so it became a little tough to write, even though it's one of the shortest in the whole series. I think it tops up somewhere around 24,000 words, so not a very long novella. When I was writing Drowned, I had a section where the spirit entity Bob comes back and visits Jack when he's in the hospital with Allison Martell, and seems somewhat confused about when in Jack's life he's appeared. He mentions something about an island. Have you gone to the island yet? And Jack's like, what island? So he clearly, leads Jack to believe that, if he's real, if he's being genuine, then Bob is somehow able to see his future, maybe? I mean, there's certainly that intimation. But Jack, again, doesn't know what island he's talking about. And at the end of Drowned, in the climax, he hears the Reverend and the followers of the Reverend, Angram, saying something in a language that he eventually realizes he can understand. But it's of course the refrain that we constantly hear about Cthulhu. which is Fnlugi Magwaf Cthulhu Raleigh Winago Fatagan. Cthulhu Fatagan, which translated is in his house at Raleigh, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. So Jack hears that, understands that, and he understands that Raleigh is a place maybe, and as he's talking to Martin at the end of Drowned, he finds a book on Martin's shelf that is called The Lost City of Raleigh. I know I keep missing this, messing that pronunciation up, but I'm just going to keep doing it. So he sees that at the end of the book, and he's like, Martin has acted like he doesn't know what I'm talking about, but he's got this book. He must know what I'm talking about. But of course, there's the whole doubt that Jack has in his mind, because this is his friend who's helping him, or he thinks he's helping him. In the beginning of the book, he's having dinner with Martin, and he's very distracted because he's continually thinking about, what if Martin really knows more than he's letting on? And what does that mean? What does that mean for me and Sarah? And, does he know what happened to Sarah? And if so, why hasn't he told me? So Jack is suspicious of Martin, but he's also doubtful of himself. He's like, did I really? I mean, Angram was speaking in some weirdo alien language. Did he really say what I thought he said? Or, did Martin even read the book? He has a ton of books, has a whole wall full of books that, surely he can't have read them all. So he's very doubtful. Well, while they're talking and eating, Agent Bill West calls and has a case. And one of the things that I've done throughout the books is almost all the books, the main plot points, have all been following Jack. We've had a few viewpoints with, like Alison Martell and such, but it's all been mostly about Jack and focused on Jack's viewpoint. Well, I've liked the character of Bill West, and I wanted to give him the microphone for a little bit. Let him talk. Let's hear his head. And so we have in the second chapter, we have him doing his job, which is basically chasing after a fugitive who they suspect has been abducting and killing women. And this particular fugitive, Walter Cosgrove, had been captured 15 years earlier by the FBI and escaped capture and then disappeared. But he had continually been abducting women and killing them. Or they presume killing them because they never found a body. The women have never been found. Walter Cosgrove has abducted a woman, and the FBI got a tip about it quickly enough that they could get organized and get together and actually have a manhunt, and they've ended up tracking him back to a series of islands off the Virginia coast. I think they were called the Virginia Barrier Islands, but you've got things like Hog Island, Chincoteague Island, and just a whole bunch of different islands there, and tracked them there. And Bill has gotten the Coast Guard and is on a Coast Guard cutter circling the islands trying to find the guy. And of course it's a needle in a haystack, because even though they're small islands, you're still talking about a guy on what's essentially a speedboat in the ocean. So he could have gone anywhere. But they end up catching Cosgrove on Hog Island. And Hog Island has an interesting story. It was, sparsely populated, but populated by Virginia population until about the 1930s, when flooding and erosion and such from, hurricanes and all that pretty much made most of the island uninhabitable year-round. You basically, they just abandoned the island because the flooding and all had destroyed the ability to really support a population. And I think there's maybe a few people that still live out there. And I think there's a documentary on Hog Island somewhere online that I saw when I was reading this. I'll try to do a search for it and see if I can link to it, or link to some other information on Hog Island. I really dug the idea, since I had set up the whole there's an island back in Drowned. I didn't know what island, and I was thinking in the time, and as I started to formulate the story for this, I was thinking of the type of Stephen King type horror movies where, he's based in Maine. Most of his stories are in Maine, and there's been a few where, there's an island off the coast of Maine and it's bare and desolate. So, another kind of homage to to Stephen King, but in this case it's in Virginia because I don't write in Maine. I did some research and came up with Virginia Barrier Islands, Hog Island, and it was kind of an interesting setting for a story, and let's see what we can do with that. Test the look of this color, man. This shirt is not orange.